Okay, all you poetry freaks out there, are you ready for a dose of hardcore slam poetry strategy?
Hardcore.
Well, that's what this book promises.
Okay, I'm listening.
We're diving deep today into some marketing material for this book called Poetry Master.
Poetry Master.
Yeah, and, well, the title kind of speaks for itself, right?
I guess so. Bold. What's the angle here?
Well, this book claims it can turn your poetry into a weapon.
A weapon, huh? That's an interesting way to put it.
I know, right? We'll see about that.
Right.
So, right off the bat, the book throws this absurd analogy of an 8 million euro door at us.
8 million for a door. Are they serious?
Yeah, apparently so. The authors really don't hold back on the imagery to get their point across.
Okay, but what are they even trying to say with this whole door thing? Is it like we're all wasting money on fancy doors when we could be writing better poems?
Well, not exactly,
Yeah.
but you're kind of getting there.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So they're basically saying that slam poetry shouldn't just be about delivering perfect but soulless lyrics. Technically good, but lacking any real impact.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
So they compare this kind of poetry to, well, like this absurd waste of money to create a strong negative image right from the start.
Okay, I see. So poetry for the trash can, just like this luxury door that nobody needs.
Exactly. It seems like a pretty aggressive sales strategy if you ask me.
Yeah, I think that's the point. But hey, I guess it got our attention, right?
Yeah, true that.
So what is this big secret that will turn us all into slam poetry superstars?
Okay, brace yourself. The write like a murderer trick.
Right, like a murderer.
Yeah, sounds a little crazy, right?
Sounds like we're about to write a crime novel instead of a poem.
I know. Like, are we supposed to start writing about bloody knives and dark alleys now?
I guess not literally, but the idea behind it isn't as crazy as it sounds. Think about it. Murderers are masters of building tension, focusing on the crucial details and making every word have an impact.
That's true, I guess.
And that's exactly what the authors want to achieve in slam poetry, too.
Okay, I admit, the idea has some merit. But can you really transfer these thriller elements directly to poetry?
Right.
I mean, we don't want the audience going home traumatized after our performances.
Of course, it's not about shocking the audience with gruesome details. It's about adapting the techniques that thriller authors use to captivate their readers.
Interesting.
It's about keeping the audience on the edge of their seats, drawing them in emotionally, and leaving a lasting impression.
All right, I'm willing to be surprised. But let's get down to brass tacks here. What does that actually look like? Are there some examples in the book?
Absolutely. They actually show a couple of examples in the book that highlight the difference between a quote-unquote boring and a killer opening.
A killer opening. That sounds intense.
Right. So a typical unspectacular opening would be something like, "It was a rainy evening and I was thinking about my life."
Yeah, I'd tune out immediately. Sounds like the beginning of a cheesy love poem.
Exactly. Now here comes the killer version. "The policeman looked at me like he'd seen my face before. Maybe because it was on the wanted list."
Wow, that's quite the difference. Short, snappy, and you're immediately thrown right into the story. But isn't that a little over the top?
Well, exaggeration is the best form of truth, right?
Yeah.
But seriously, the point is that you have to grab the audience's attention from the very beginning and draw them into the story. And strong images and unexpected twists are simply more effective for that than lengthy descriptions of rainy evenings.
Okay, got it. Create tension, captivate the listener, all right? But how do you actually build this tension step by step? Does the book offer some kind of magic formula for that?
Well, maybe not magic, but it does offer a clear 3-step guide. First, start with a threat.
So not something like, oh no, my hamster's sick.
Probably not. It's about real danger, high stakes that immediately captivate the listener. For example, the knocking came at 3 a.m. I knew immediately if I opened this door, I'd be dead.
Okay, that's a lot darker. I probably wouldn't want to open that door either.
Right.
And what's next? What's step number 2?
Step 2, build up an expectation and then destroy it.
Okay, how so?
So the audience should think, I know where this is going, and then bam, comes a surprise.
Sounds exciting. Do you have an example for that too?
Sure. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and there stood a damn clown.
A clown at 3 in the morning. I think I'd be more likely to laugh than be scared. But I understand what you mean. You play with the audience's expectations and create a surprise effect.
Exactly. You want to shock the audience, surprise them, make them laugh, or make them think. The main thing is to leave a lasting impression.
Okay, 2 out of 3 steps checked off. What's the third step on the path to becoming a slam poetry master?
The third step is Be brutally honest. No flowery poetry, no meaningless metaphors, but pure truth, but as sharp as a knife.
So no fear of harsh words. Are we all supposed to start revealing our deepest, darkest secrets on stage now?
Not necessarily secrets, but you should call a spade, even if it gets uncomfortable. Like, I smiled at him, then I kicked him in the balls.
Okay, now that's really harsh.
I know, right?
But I get what you mean. You have to have the courage to be provocative sometimes, to stand out from the crowd.
Absolutely. This book doesn't want to raise well-behaved sheep. It wants slam poets who rock the stage and captivate the audience.
Yeah, I guess so.
And for that, you need a bit of provocation.
All right, you've convinced me. But now, honestly, do you really think this poetry master is the key to success? Or is it all just hot air and marketing hype?
That's the big question, isn't it? The authors claim that their book is a weapon, not some quote-unquote weak-ass self-help book. They don't want wannabe Instagram poets. They want hardcore stage warriors.
Sounds pretty aggressive, right?
Yeah.
Should we all start wearing steel helmets and bulletproof vests before we go on stage now?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it's clear that the authors want to polarize with this book. Provocation and attracting attention, that seems to be the motto.
Okay, got it. But the question is, does this approach really work? Or is it just a cheap marketing ploy to sell more books in the end?
Hard to say. The techniques themselves have their merits. Building tension, triggering emotions, those are important elements in the art of storytelling. But whether you have to become a quote-unquote murderer for that...
Yeah, that's up to each individual. Although, I think a little more bite and aggressiveness wouldn't hurt some slam poets. Some poems are just so bland you fall asleep listening to them.
True. Sometimes you have to shout a little louder to be heard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. Would you go that hard on stage? With kicking the balls and all that?
Good question. I think I'm more the type for more subtle methods. But who knows? Maybe my dark side will surprise me someday.
I'm curious, but first, back to the book. What are the most important points that Poetry Master wants to convey?
At its core, it's about the fact that slam poetry doesn't just have to be technically perfect, but above all, effective.
Okay, that's it.
It needs to grab the audience, captivate them, and make them think.
And preferably with the write like a murderer method.
That's what the authors recommend, yes. Whether you want to implement that literally is, of course, up to each individual. But the basic idea that you have to trigger something with your texts, that's definitely important.
Absolutely. And that's what makes slam poetry so exciting. It's an art form that polarizes, provokes, and makes you think.
And that's exactly why this Poetry Master book is so interesting. It raises the question of how far you can go to reach your audience.
Okay.
Does the end really justify the means? Or is there a line between art and aggression?
Phew, tough questions. I guess we need to think about that a bit more. But hey, before we get lost in philosophical debates, back to the practical tips from the book, the authors preach this ruthless honesty. Almost brutal, right?
Yeah, brutally honest, like a car crash you just can't look away from.
Wow, okay, that's a pretty intense image.
Right. The book basically promotes a radical form of authenticity.
Radical authenticity.
Away with all pretense.
Got it.
Toward raw, unvarnished emotions.
Interesting. So, like, no more sugarcoating, just straight up truth bombs?
That's the idea. And it can be very powerful, but, it also has its risks.
Risks. Like, are we talking about Germany's Next Top Model, where Heidi Klum tells those girls straight to their faces they're too fat?
Okay, maybe not that extreme.
Right.
But of course, you can also rub people the wrong way with too much honesty.
True. So, like, how much honesty is too much?
Yeah, it's tricky.
Is there, like, a magic formula?
Not really, but you need a good sense of how far you can go without completely alienating people.
That's a good point. You don't want to end up standing alone with your poems like, I don't know, a car parked illegally in a handicapped spot.
Right, exactly.
But, I think slam poetry is also about pushing boundaries, breaking taboos, and getting the audience out of their comfort zone.
Absolutely. But it's all about the right dosage.
Dosage. Like medicine.
Well, kind of. You have to shock without hurting.
Okay.
Provoke without insulting. That's the art.
So, like, the fine art of delivering an insult in a sophisticated way?
Well, yeah, sort of.
Kind of like how Dieter Bohlen perfected it on Deutschland, den Superstar.
Well, Dieter Bohlen might not be the best role model when it comes to poetry, but the idea behind it is right.
Okay.
You have to choose your words carefully and assess their impact on the audience.
So how do you find that sweet spot, that balance between brutal honesty and not scaring everyone away.
It's a dance,
A
really.
dance.
You have to stay true to yourself, be authentic, and know your own limits. You shouldn't write anything you don't stand behind yourself just for the sake of provocation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The audience will see right through that.
So no cheap shock effects just to get attention.
Right. No, it's about real emotions, about authenticity, about your own voice. That's what makes good poetry.
Okay, I'm with you on that. But let's get back to the book.
Okay.
Poetry Master, Weapon or Hype?
Weapon or hype?
Yeah. Is this really the holy grail of the slam poetry scene, or is it just a marketing gimmick?
I'd say both. I mean, the book definitely offers some interesting food for thought and techniques that you can use for your own writing.
Okay.
But whether it will actually turn you into a quote-unquote slam poetry killer, I doubt that.
So more of a marketing gimmick.
At least partly.
Like all those self-help guides that promise to make you a millionaire in 30 days.
Exactly.
Poetry Power in 7 days. Who wouldn't want that? Ideally with a money-back guarantee if you're still not girth after a week.
Right. But you shouldn't let yourself be blinded by the hype. Slam poetry is hard work no matter what book you read.
That's true.
Talent and practice are essential. There's no way around that.
Okay, yeah.
But a little inspiration and motivation can't hurt, right? Like an energy drink before a performance.
Right, like a little boost.
Exactly. But in the end, it comes down to your own skills and creativity.
I agree. But let's be honest. Would you recommend this book?
Good question.
Or should we just toss it on the pile of books for our next bonfire night?
I would say it's worth a look. But you should read it with a healthy dose of skepticism and not take everything at face value.
Okay, makes sense.
And most importantly, think for yourselves, question the statements, and find your own style.
That's a good point. We don't want all slam poems ending up sounding like a Dieter Bohlen song.
Absolutely.
That would be a nightmare.
Right. And don't forget, slam poetry should be fun, so don't let any success formulas drive you crazy.
That's true. Just have fun writing and performing, and if you're ever having a bad day, just write a poem about it.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe you'll be on stage yourself soon, rocking the house.
That would be something. But for now, enough about slam poetry and Poetry Master. I think my head is already spinning from all these tips and tricks.
Yeah, I think we've given the topic enough attention.
Time for something else.
Absolutely. What's next on the agenda?
Let me think. I have an idea. All right, I'll tell you. It's about... Wait a minute, what's that noise?
What? What's it going on? Sounds like an elephant dancing in a china shop.
Don't panic, it's just the mailman.
The mailman at this hour. Did he get lost or something? And what is he carrying? It looks like a whole mountain of books.
Oh, God, this is embarrassing. It's my Poetry Master order. Poetry Power in 7 days. I just couldn't resist.
Woo, you actually ordered the book. Well, bon appetit. Now we're right in the middle of slam poetry madness.
I know. It kind of went a little crazy. But hey, maybe it really is as good as the author's promise. The ultimate weapon for every slam poet. Who wouldn't want to be that?
Well, I'm still skeptical. But hey, maybe the book will surprise us. Who knows? Maybe we'll discover our hidden slam poetry talents.
That would be something. Imagine us standing on stage, rocking the audience with our hardcore rhymes. The crowd goes wild, the jury is thrilled, and we take first place.
Yeah, and then we're showered with prizes, signing autographs, and getting our own slam poetry show on TV. Poetry Master, the reality show with the toughest poets in the nation.
Sounds like a plan, but first we have to read the book and unlock the secrets of the Write Like a Murderer method. Maybe we should start some kind of reading group and support each other with feedback and tips.
Yeah, that's a great idea, like a Poetry Master boot camp just for us.
Yeah.
Then we can put our newly acquired knowledge into practice and prepare for the big stage.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe we'll even write a slam poem together, kind of a poetry battle between the two of us. The winner gets a golden microphone trophy and a lifetime supply of writing materials.
Sounds like a fair deal. But seriously now, what do you really think about the book? Do you think it can really help us?
To be honest, I'm not sure. But I'm open to new things. And I think it's an exciting idea to try a different approach. Who knows, maybe there's more to it than just marketing hype.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's just read the book and then we'll see. Maybe it really is the ultimate weapon that will turn us into slam poetry superstars.
Right.
Or we'll just laugh our heads off at the absurd tips and tricks.
Either way, it's definitely going to be an adventure. So let's sharpen our pencils, rack our brains, and conquer the world of poetry. And if you also want to take your slam poetry skills to the next level, you can check out the book Poetry Master Poetry Power in 7 days.
Yeah, maybe you'll discover your hidden talent and soon be rocking the stages of the world. We're keeping our fingers crossed for you.
And with that, we say goodbye for today. Stay creative and let the words fly. Until the next deep dive.